All right, welcome. This is M-Dog, and this is the video series that we discussed in a couple of recent videos of me trying to go back. Now that we have a Steam release and I have sort of this Steam account that's a fresh account that I haven't played, decided that we would do another sort of intro to the game series. I would say that this hopefully will be helpful for people who are A, considering playing the game and trying to see kind of what is it all about, what's it like, or B, that this might be helpful for folks who are new to the game and still kind of figuring things out in this Russian Fishing 4 world. Such a fun fishing game. So we're gonna hopefully front load this episode with some helpful information as I think of things, and I've got 2 or 3 things in my head that I just know that I want to try to talk about pretty early in this episode. But I do just overall, in general, just kind of want to show you the process. And I've done this before on stream, and I think I've even uploaded some of those episodes to YouTube. But this time, this is only for YouTube. I'm not streaming this. This is just me and you trying to figure this out together. So this is a brand new account. There's a couple things. First thing I would say, and this is a little bit of self-promotion, but if you're looking for a good place to hang out with like-minded people who are very helpful and encouraging and funny and entertaining, you might consider joining one of the chat places in the game. So you start off with, by default, you're just wherever, whatever map you're on. So like right now I'm here. There's a lot of level 1s. There's a level 3, there's a level 17. He's probably going for frogs. So there's a lot of low-level players here because this is where you start when you start the game. If you have questions, if you want to join the folks that are in my stream at night and some days, or if you're just looking for a group of people to kind of hang out with, just click on this wheel here. It says select a channel, search for my DAWGS. It'll come up right here. There's 62 players. Join that, and now you've got people. Look how many people are on right now. Wait, this is not switched over. Hold on a second, guys. For some reason it didn't switch over. So maybe by default at the Cottage Pond it keeps you in anyway, we'll look at it again once we get to Mosquito, because it should be working by then. Okay. The other thing I'll just say quickly, if you would like to join us live on Twitch, it's twitch.tv/mdoggaming. If for some reason you're coming here to YouTube and haven't visited the stream, we love having new players or old players come and hang out with us. And we just kind of all try to figure this game out together. So it's been a lot of fun. So I guess the first thing I would say, let's look at our inventory, okay? We've got this fishing pole. It's not put together. So let's see what the tutorial is going to have us do. I don't think, like, it should be letting us do the tutorial, shouldn't it? For some reason, it doesn't seem to be. And so I don't know why that would be. This is the first time I've logged in on, it's the first time I've logged in on Twitch, right? Let's see if there is something about tutorial under quick help. No, that just shows you all the commands. So maybe it is because through Twitch, when you were able to, I did log in to my main account, and so maybe it has already sensed that I have played the game before. All right, so before we leave Cottage Pond, let's say this: the first thing I would do when you first start the game is go over to the house at the Cottage Pond, hit Y, get some spare tackle. Now, if you look at my inventory, I've got 2 rods. Okay, so that's important. For the tutorial, it's going to have you come down here. I assume it's going to either already have your line put together, or it will, walk you through putting your line together. I don't remember if it has you fish with bread or worms. I have a feeling it's bread, because I think we got the worms from getting the spare tackle in the shop. Okay, here is your first and most important lesson. This is the most important lesson that you can learn and then generalize throughout your play of the game, at least until you are much higher level. This is how you want to build your fishing pole, or from what I will probably call from here on out, your rig, okay? The rod has to be the strongest part of your rig, followed by your reel, which there is not one in this float rig. And then after your reel, you want to look at your line. And then the only thing that might be weaker than your line would sometimes be your leader. So if you look right here, the load capacity of this Express Fishing Telestick TL16 is 4.5. The load capacity of our line is 3.1. The great news about if you set up your rig this way is when you accidentally catch a common carp at level 3, you will break your line and not your rod. If you don't set up your rigs correctly, especially early in the game when your gear is inexpensive and not super high quality, then you will break reels and rods, and this game will be frustrating, and it will set yourself back lots of silver. Okay, I'm not trying to talk down. Some of you may already know this. I had no idea about this when I first started playing this game. And it was only because people immediately came and helped me that I did not have multiple broken rods and reels. Okay? All right, the next thing I want to show you is if you hold down U, we've already built our float rod here. If you hold down U, you can drag into the 1, 2, 3. This is your shortcuts, okay? So we'll go ahead and put the bamboo, the free rod there in the second one, even though we're not going to be using it right now. And now if I hit the number 1, this will bring up our brand new fishing rig, okay? In the tutorial, it's going to have you come to the end of the pier and turn towards this spot over here. There will be a circle that you're supposed to cast in. Now, if you hit plus or minus, you're going to change the depth. Let's go ahead and do a 65 centimeter. We'll see if that is deep enough to get some bites here. And then we're going to go ahead and cast. We don't have that much line. Obviously, we need to get it farther than that. I don't even think that would have been far enough to get in the circle. That may or may not be. You may have to do a fuller cast even than that, but we're going to try going with that. We actually would probably be better off getting it closer to the shore anyway, but let's just see. So in the tutorial that it's not having us do for whatever reason, the last step of your tutorial is going to be, after you've adjusted using the plus or minus how deep your line is, you're going to have to go catch a fish over here in this highlighted circle that it gives you. And I think it specifically has you do it from the end of the pier here. Now let's see if we can actually set this rod down. Oh, we can. So we can get out and stretch our legs. So I've got a shortcut for me to, because of the mouse I'm using, I've got it shortcutting to basically 10. No, I'm sorry, it's 0. That's right. It's by default. 5 is what I shortcut putting it into the backpack. Anyway, you can kind of decide what you want to do in terms of. Yeah, we should have a bite by now. So let's reposition this thing. Let's see if we can get this farther. I guess we'll go like 92% cast. Sometimes it bounces back. That must be far enough. I really, in my mind, thinking about so many months ago when I did this tutorial, the circle was much closer to the shore, but that must be about right. Now, one thing we could try to do is throw it like a little bit north of that, closer to that shore. But let's see if we get a bite here. So we're using a size 16 hook. And a piece of bread. Still nothing, huh? You should see bites pretty quickly. It is getting a little late in the day. Let's don't dilly-dally. We'll put this a little deeper to 80, and we'll try to throw this a little closer to the shore here. So the bobber is still straight up in the air, so we know that it's a decent toss. You do start with bread in your inventory. We're going to try not to eat any of that here, though, because once we get to Mosquito, we'll have a free meal. That cast looks good. We should have a bite, I would think, from that cast there. I do remember the first time I did this tutorial. Now, I didn't know what I was doing, but I do think I remember it might have taken a while to get a fish. Of course, the scary thing is if we don't get a fish by overnight here, we may not get one till first thing in the morning. All right, so let's see if I can not mess this up. Unfortunately, on this video series, you're going to probably see me miss a lot of fish float fishing. I have not done a lot of float fishing since I first started playing the game so early. Once the bite goes down like that, you are safe to catch that fish. That is a nice first fish. A nice first fish. We will take that. So you see, it tells you how much XP you got, and it tells you if you ranked up your skills. This, of course, is float fishing. This green check up here says it's a record fish and highly valued. That means that we're going to be able to sell it at the fish market for some silver. You've got the weight, which is currently in grams. It may be shown in pounds later on for North American players or folks that use pounds and ounces. But and so I would say for a long time, your default choice is going to be to keep the fish, not to let it go. And the reason why I say that is because as a new player, it's much more important that you get the silver from fish early on. That's much more important than your level. So let's look in the house real quick. Just out of while we're here, we should show you this feature. You can now click on your backpack and store things in your house. So like, let's say we didn't want to use, you actually have to hit this, click on this enable group selection mode. Let's say you didn't want to keep either of these drinks that they start you with. You can hold shift or control. If you hold control, you can select multiple items. If you hold shift, you can select the whole row by clicking on the first and last thing. And then you could put this and stores them in the house. And then later you can come back. Same thing, we can hit shift and hold it down. And then we can put it back in our backpack whenever we want it. So you can store things in your house. It's kind of nice to be able to keep your inventory somewhat trimmed down. And now that you're done with the tutorial, you're going to want to go to Mosquito Lake. So let's do that. This is where the opportunity for the more intense fishing begins. And this is most importantly where you're going to be able to buy additional gear. And what we want to do straight from the beginning, as soon as we're able to afford it, is we want to get a feeder rod in the water. My suggestion to you early in the game is to work towards getting 2 feeder rods and your 1 float rod, or 1 feeder rod and 2 float rods. That's kind of a personal preference thing. I just love feeder fishing, so that I would go the direction of having 2 feeder rods and 1 float, but that's just me. Okay, so here's the fish market. If you press E, you can see the fish you have. This sells for 0.27 silver, so not very much, but we might as well sell it since we didn't catch that fish here. We wouldn't be able to use it in the cafe order anyway. So this is where you sell the fish. Boat station is where you're going to buy boat tickets. If you ever want to troll at Mosquito, you would need to get a boat ticket. Let's see here. Grocery store is where you get all kinds of food, drink, and alcohol. We will definitely be coming back to some of that stuff. This is the cafe here. You see what kind of fish they're asking to catch in orders. You try to get those fish, you turn them into the cafe. It's usually worth about 3 times as much by turning it into the cafe versus turning it into the fish market. Administration is where you'll buy your map. It is a good idea to buy this map very early, although I think for me, I would say it's more important to get 3 rigs in the water first before you spend money on a map. This is where we can eat for free, the field kitchen, once a day. This is the all-important tackle store. Before we go to the tackle store, let me show you the workshop though. The only thing you really need to worry about, so eventually you'll have to repair your stuff at workshops, but that honestly is not going to be for a long time. But this is the biggie at the store, at the workshop early, and you click on the store tab. You want to buy a shovel. You can't use it till level 3 anyway, so I'm not suggesting you buy it before you get a little bit of gear, but very early you want to buy a shovel because you want to start leveling up your ability to craft baits, which shoveling for worms is a part of that. Okay, let's go to the tackle store. Now let me show you what our first purchase hopefully will eventually be. We want to get a feeder rod, okay? So we've got 50 silver. Let's count up to see how much, if we could afford this. The only difference in these starting feeder rods is going to be how long they are, which does give you a little bit better control of fish. But I think to save the silver, this first one I would probably get cheapest. Okay, so we're talking about 37.8 silver plus the cost of a Spark 3000. That's, let's just say 10, 47.8 silver. We would also need, let's see if we have any line that we could even use. I mean, we really could not use that. So we would have to also buy line. So what do we say? We're at 47 silver. The rod is going to be, well, the Spark is only 3 kilo drag, so the line needs to actually be less than 3. Whoa, it's all sold out. Hold on. So that's gonna, that's gonna be tough. This is, and thankfully changes are coming to this, but this is what faces new players that can be a little difficult. We actually don't have line in stock here. So we're going to have to overload, which means getting 3.9 kilo line, which means we will risk breaking our reel. Let's look at the rod real quick to see what the 5. So we're 5 on the rod, but we literally could break our reel. But so normally if you start the game and things are in stock, which changes are coming with this, thankfully. Okay, so that's 4. So what did we say, guys? Sorry, I'm just not remembering. 37. So 38, 48, 48, 52. That would be 52 silver. And then we would need a couple of hooks. Size 12 is a little iffy. I really think these happy hooks might be your best bet even early on. Let's see. Yeah. So let's see how much a happy hook cost. A size 19 is 780. So that would be like basically 60 silver. The cheapest would be 61 silver. So 61 silver is what we need. We need about 11 silver before we can do it. All right, so there's some cool spots I want to show you here, but especially once we get our feeder lines going. Do we have this set up where we can use it yet? No, we need to. Let's use a rusty hook on this one because there is no telling. We may lose this line. It's so small. All right, let's go somewhere where we know we can try to hopefully catch some really small fish. I'll show you the first spot that I really liked. It is a little bit of a streaky spot because I've been back here and sometimes it's hot, sometimes it's not. But I do like this little spot for early game because there tends to be pretty small fish over here that you will hopefully be able to handle early on. And it is right here. It's just this little alcove here. F does turn on the flashlight. All right, let's go ahead and go to 75. We're just gonna do a little toss here, a little higher, a little longer than that though. And we'll keep bread on this for now. And we're gonna set again with 0. We're gonna set that down, and then let's adjust this to maybe 40 because we're going even more shallow over here. Can we see it? We need to get a little farther out so we can at least see the little feather float. It's hard enough to see as it is. Okay, so now we've got the rods backwards here. 1 is on the right and 2 is on the left, which is not normally how I would do it, but all right. So the fish is actually walking away with the bait, so we can go ahead and pull this guy out. Let's see what we got here. Okay, it's a nice keeper crucian. By the way, let's see if our chat is fixed as well. Are we in the right chat? Yes, it looks like we are. These are people I'm recognizing. So anyway, I guess in the Cottage pond, you by default stay in your local chat there. I don't see the hook, so, I mean the bobber. Yeah, there's a fish on there. I'm glad we checked. All right, this is the time of night, especially on worms. We're probably going to catch some Chinese sleepers. I just cannot get this this little guy out there very far. It's like embarrassing. The things that you have to do as a new player, huh? All right, there we go. At least it's out there a little bit. We'll see if bread may not keep. Oh, look how fast that Chinese sleeper just bit on. We're basically going to catch Chinese sleepers all night here. And what we should probably do is go ahead and put worms on the other one as well. If the bread's not getting a bite, which it's not, let's go ahead and switch this to worms as well. So the idea here is we know that Chinese sleepers bite on the worms at night, and Chinese sleeper may be the only fish we're going to catch overnight in this spot. So let's just load up on Chinese sleepers if we can. You see we've already got 2 of them. One of them was a valued fish. So if you noticed in the store, I was looking at that hook that cost a lot more. What was it called? A happy hook. And the reason why I was looking at that is it's just got a much better rating in terms of stars. And so I don't even really suggest that you spend silver on those really low rated hooks. This game hooks is one of the key things about this game. If you have really bad hooks, you're going to lose a lot of fish. There's just no way around it. Getting valuable hooks is going to be really important. All right, let's go ahead and put this a little farther out here. There we go. See if we can catch a Chinese sleeper. So, and weather does matter. Time of day does matter. Once it gets to be 4 or 5 in the morning, we can put bread back out there and we'll start catching other stuff as well. And worms will start catching other stuff as well. But for right now, Chinese sleepers is one of the only things that's going to bite in this spot. So we'll just keep worms on. And what would be really nice, and I didn't notice when we were over there, but what would be really nice is if there's a cafe order for Chinese sleepers. To me, there is nothing quite as slow as the grind to get going in this game. Once you get going, it is awesome. But just in terms of these first few levels, we don't have any skills to spend. We can't make any baits yet except for, you know, crumb, like making bread basically. Just so limited. And mostly limited by silver, not just level. Unfortunate that we happened to start the game at the time we did in terms of it almost being nighttime. And that's just kind of a random thing. Whatever the server time is what it is. And so you'll just see what time it is when you do start playing. You see how there we go. There are many different ways that you'll see a fish sort of bite / nibble on your line, and different fish do it in different ways. It's a nice gibble there. It's a nice little gibble. But you really have to wait until the fish has completely taken the bait. And hopefully I can try to point out times that it's okay to go ahead and pick up the rod. I just don't love how this thing is sitting. I'm going to go ahead and try to put this way this time so we can... There we go. But yeah, if you pull your rod up too quickly, which by the way, with these float fishing, all I'm doing is holding down the left mouse button to pull it up. So, okay, we've got a little nibble on this one. You can see it kind of moving up and down a little bit, and you want to wait till the fish has fully committed to taking your bait, like that, and then you're safe to pull straight up. This is the cheapest hook in the game, so that's going to happen a lot. We'll go ahead and switch to this one. Although, to be fair, yeah, I don't really like that. Hold on. I think it's worth switching here. This rod is so much stronger than that. I mean, everything about it is just so much stronger. So let's switch out the hooks here. We want to have the smaller hook on that one, if anything. So we're putting the 14 on this one with worm still. And let's go ahead and put it back in. So that's what it does if it's if it's too deep. So basically we have it set too deep, and so the line isn't going all the way down in the water. There we go. Now we're back to normal. Oops. And then let's get this one out. We need to put the 16 on this, and we'll put worm on this as well. Alright, we'll keep them both right there for now. Let's see if we get bites over here. So now I have them set up the way I like it. 1 is on the left and 2 is on the right. The overnight hours can be really slow. All right, let's move. Let's move. Let's don't just sit here staring at floats. This spot will probably pick up again once it's morning time, but for now, let's find something better. Another spot that I'm sure I'll talk about in this video series, especially while we're here at Mosquito, is the spot near the dock. And definitely like fishing around the dock and in this general area over here near the dock. With our limited casting ability, though, I'm not sure. Well, we can try it and see if this works. Kind of want this probably pretty close to the shore. Yeah, we'll see if we get bites there. So doing two telescopic or float fishing, basic float fishing rigs like this is somewhat doable. I think doing 3 gets to be a little much. It's a lot to take care of. It's possible. When I was first leveling up, I did that before I discovered feeder fishing, because you can have 3 rods out at the same time. But once I discovered feeder fishing, that's just a much more, for me, fun and efficient way to try to catch fish on multiple rigs. And when you're not getting a bite like this, one thing I think it's worth trying is, let's go deeper. This spot may just be a deeper spot. Yeah, see, the bobber's still straight up, going really deep in that area. Let's see if that helps get our bite rate up. You want to have that bait fairly close to the bottom for the fish to see it. And again, we're completely reliant right now on there being Chinese sleepers. I mean, that's just about the only thing we're going to catch. If you look at silver right now, we've gotten 2.9 silver from those 4 fish. Let's see if we're working on a cafe order, though. So we need 3 sleepers, but they're small. We're working on the crucian carp order, potentially, which is worth 6 silver. And you see, this is where you really start getting into making some silvers if you can finish these orders. That's true. The other thing we could catch at night are rough. I really didn't think about that. Rough will bite worms occasionally if we found a good rough spot. And rough are small, pretty safe for starter gear to catch. I'm much more used to catching them on feeders, though. Yeah, we are not getting bites in this spot either. So let's move around again. Might as well show you some different spots while we're trying to find somewhere to catch some fish. It is almost 4 a.m., so the bites will start picking up here shortly. Let's try just dropping them. That could be tough with our little bamboo rod, huh? I'm trying to decide if we want to come back. We'll just go fish over here. There's some spots over here that are pretty good since it's almost morning anyway. Let's just go get set up in one of these nice spots. Really like this spot here. Occasionally get a tench there, although you could also occasionally get a fish that would be a little too big to pull in on this line. But again, if that happens, it'll break our line, not our pole, which is good. Another really good spot. You see those lilies? In fact, let's try this spot. If we get this out there a little bit, this depth may still be okay. It's kind of sideways. Yeah, that's not. We need to lower it up a little bit. All right, that should be good. Touching bottom, so we'll do a little bit lighter. Yeah, that should be good. We'll see if this gets us going in for anything. There's another spot over here I was coming to show you though. This is another really popular spot. It's easy marker because of this wood that's in the water. But basically just kind of casting between the shore and those lilies, especially with feeder rods, but float rods work really well there too. Pretty popular spot. Once it hits 5 a.m. we'll need to go find a more active spot if this isn't hitting. It looks like that worm over there just drifting near those lilies would catch something pretty nice. This one I'm not so sure about. We're so shallow. We're so shallow in that spot. I don't know. Let's see if we can get this just out there a little bit. So the shorter your rod on a float rod like this, the less distance you'll be able to have, because the less line you'll be able to have on there, if that makes sense. So that's why you'll see some of the more, the stronger and more serious telescopic rods and even bolo rods are just so long. Almost unwieldy, so we're getting a bite over here on this one. Just don't mess this bite up since it's been so long since we caught a fish. Oh, now we're getting a bite over there as well. In fact, that one is under. I think we got it. Nice, little rough. That's what we were talking about before, is the rough. And I think, again, it just kind of has to do with the time of day. This is part of why we've seen this drop off in bites. There we go. There we go. Fish are starting to wake up again. We'll just keep fishing this little spot for now. See if it continues to be good. We'll switch this one to bread, our first one again, after we catch another fish, if we catch another fish over there. So that rough was nice. Not a marker, but every fish helps at this point. Gives you a fraction of silver if nothing else, and it also just contributes towards your level. That was a quick bite. I don't know what kind of fish this is, and we missed it, but oh, we're going to put bread on, aren't we? Let's try bread, see if it gets, if it's a little more active in this spot. Just kind of depends on what kind of species are here right now. Now the other thing we could have done instead of saving for a feeder rod is you could have gone and right from the start bought a third and more decent telescopic rig than this, bamboo one we're using, which is the free one you get from the house. So we certainly could have done that, which might have allowed us to have a little quicker start, but I wanted to show you how to get into a feeder rig as quickly as possible. Oof, so close. Float fishing is really a game of patience. Once we get into feeder fishing, you'll see why, for me, who doesn't always have a ton of patience, it's just a better fit. Nice fish, though. It's a gibble. Yeah, that hit us to level 2. Float fishing is up to 1.6% already. And let's get a few more here while the fishing is good. This is the time of day, or one of the times of day, that you could argue that fishing is going to be the best. You can always hit G while looking at one of your rods. So you'll see it says see detail, or it just says details. And it'll show you if the bait's still on there. You can see people from my chat are sending me messages. All right. People giving me a hard time about how many accounts I have. All right, there we go. Let's go ahead and get this ready. Hopefully it'll be another nice, really nice gibble or crucian. Once it goes completely sideways like that, it's typically okay to pull at that point. It's a crucian. It's very affirming early in the game. You get all kinds of recognition for personal bests, since you don't have anything to compare it to. All right, there we go. We're going to try to pull this one as well. It's a pretty big fish for our little setup there. 604 gram crucian. Is that not the biggest? Oh, no, we had that 836 gibble. That's right. So let's see if we can get this guy a little farther out here. Seems like the fish are out there even more. And this has definitely got a bite going here. And in many ways at Mosquito here, bread and worms are going to be interchangeable. Oof, almost pulled there. It would have been too early. You see how you just have to wait through the bites. Some fish species will nibble a lot longer than others. When you've played it enough, you'll even start to be able to kind of have a good guess on what kind of fish it is based on how it's nibbling, especially if you end up specializing in float fishing. Once it's under like that, it's definitely safe to pull. But with these cheap hooks, and just with the luck of float fishing, you're not going to always get the fish. I'm not sure if that was under or not. I lost sight of the little feather float, so I just couldn't see it. All right, that's a good cast. That's the best cast we've had with that little thing yet. All right, let's get this ready. And you can see now that we're on the fish, we're actually leveling really quickly. We're already to 2.5. If you get decent fish, you get a lot of XP. But I will say that this area that we're fishing in right now is a little more risky, possibly. I think there's some bigger fish over here compared to some of those early spots I was showing you. So far, we've been okay, but you never know. We've got small hooks, that helps. We're using baits that tend to get the smaller species of fish, but both bread and worms can sometimes get things like a common carp or something else that would totally wreck these, completely snap our line and set us back in terms of silver pretty dramatically. Crucian as well. Float fishing's up to 2.4%. I don't think we're going to have completed an order or anything yet. If we're able to get enough fish to complete an order and sell the rest of the fish, I suspect we'll have enough to get our first feeder rod. Like I said before, when it's sideways like that, it's probably okay to go ahead and pull it. Not that you're always going to get it, but these nibbles over here are going crazy, aren't they? All right. One fish that would be nice to catch, although we probably wouldn't be able to pull in too big a one, but there are tench at Mosquito, and that would just be a huge boon for us in terms of the silver and XP from it at this point. And they will sometimes go for the worm, pulled out of its mouth there right at the end. If you look at records for Mosquito Lake, which is where we are, you can see all of the species that you can find in Mosquito Lake. So here's the tench. See, biggest tench caught at Mosquito was caught on worms. So brace yourself. Okay. The fish had our all right. Let's pull this one in. That's interesting. The nibbles stopped, didn't they? Now we're getting some nibbles on the other one. Wow. Lazy little fish, huh? I think there's always a temptation for new players to pull these too quick. But I feel that same temptation even now. Even knowing that you really have to let it set a little bit, like that one should be good now. Doesn't mean you're still not going to pull it right out of the fish's mouth, though. And that happens a lot with float fishing. What doesn't happen as much is you saw that one fish actually got away. And so it wasn't that, I mean, we actually had that fish good and hooked, and then somehow it came off as we were pulling it up, which could be more of an indication of well, the cheap hook and then other factors as well. So now that we've hit level 2, if we wanted to, we could start putting points into our account to make ourselves more efficient and a better fisherman. But I don't think we're going to put points in float fishing, so I don't suspect we'll do that just yet. I'm not sure about how that feather float is sitting. I don't know if it's well, there, it just got a bite, so I guess it's good. I think we want to go ahead and pull it though and reposition it if there's not a fish on. See how far the fish had taken that? Pretty far. Alright, there we go. 2 good casts. I guess we can go look at the cafe, just see how close we're getting, and we can also look at a couple different spots to fish over there closer to the dock and other areas. We'll try to get one more thing here from this spot. It's a little later in the morning now. It's not quite as... the fishing might not be quite as hot. That early morning fishing is usually really good. See, it's kind of moving to the side there, but it's gently moving to the side. You don't really want to pull it in that. That's still sort of phase 1 of the bite. You always want to wait till kind of the second phase, which has different indications. And this line actually had a fish on there. The nice thing is when you pull the bait out of the fish's mouth like we just did, it does not take away your bait. So we still have the same amount of worms there. We didn't actually lose a worm with the fish not hooking in there. And everything about fishing in this game, in terms of just some of the basics, does get easier as you move forward, because skill points and better gear make such a big difference. Now we'll obviously be fishing for for different fish species, some of which are much more difficult to get in because they're strong or their size, or some of them are very cautious, so it's harder to target them. But just in terms of the very practical process of fishing, your skills will improve as you level up, and so it'll only get easier from here. Which is kind of the weird part of the game to me. It's like, I think the makers of the game really want you to have that sense of like, as in terms of your experience, simulating your experience as someone who's a fisherman. Well, everyone kind of starts with a bamboo cane and a worm or a piece of bread or whatever, right? But as far as the game as far as the game goes, it is like the grind. To me, the grind is never as hard as it is in this early part of the game, because later in the game, even though you need so much more XP to level up, you're to me having so much more fun, and you've got so many more tools and options and stuff than you do here early. So all right, let's move. I think if nothing else, just for a change of scenery, let's go back up to the dock. That way we can get the lines in, and then we can also just take a quick gander at the cafe. I don't want to waste time if we have enough silver to finish getting that bottom rig. So on every map, you're going to have somewhere there's going to be a campsite. Is it every map? I think that's true. This is where you can craft at the campfire. You can craft certain things. I don't know if they're later planning on doing things with the tent and the vehicle there, but for now, the campfire is what you're looking for. You can make your mulled wine, coffee, and tea, which are all important things that you want to have, but not this early in the game. You don't want to waste silver on those things at this point. Because remember, once a day we can eat for free, like we just did. And we can also once a day go back to the cottage pond and get some more free worms, which at this point would be pretty nice. let's just see if putting these lines in here. I like this spot a lot with feeder lines, and I think it's okay with telescopic float rigs as well, but is that already getting a bite? Alright, let's just take a gander. Yeah, we're only 2 short on the crucian order, which is nice. We haven't got any of that. 4 short on the rough order, so we've got a ways. We have a total of 6 silver, which put us at 56, so we're not there yet. Not there yet. So we're getting a bite on both. I think we could probably make our second little rod, we could put that bait a little deeper in the water. Alright, here's a nice little fish here. It's actually just, you see how big how high the tension bar is going? Well, there's the tench. So we just skipped over level 4 because we got 734 XP for that. Remember, we were just talking about the tench would be quite a boon for us. And it was. So let's make this a little deeper. If we had caught that tench on this bamboo rod, we probably would not have been able to get it in. Probably wouldn't have quite been strong enough. Whew. That is a nice one. Was there a tench order at the cafe? Oh, there is, and it fills it. That's 14 silver right there. Okay, so this is a great example. Okay, let's look and see how much this tench is worth. The tench is worth 3.9 silver. Because we've got an order for it, we're getting 14.5. That is way more than 3 times as much. And that is a huge grab in terms of silver at this point in the game. To get an order like that done is just massive. It is very good. Oh, it's our first common roach, first of many, right? And float fishing's up to 3%. Okay, so we'll leave our lines in the water and hope for the best. Let's go ahead and start putting our feeder rod together. So, we know that rod, we want to get the least expensive Sorrento. And we know that reel, we want to get a fishing spark. We know that, right? Yeah, it'd be awesome if we saved up, but we just can't be that patient. And we're going to have to get a little oversized line, unfortunately. How much do we have left? All right, we don't need lures. We do need another nice float. Thankfully, they're pretty cheap. Oh, we don't need a float. This is a feeder. Don't listen to me. We are going to get a happy hook. Oh, shoot. What's the order? What's the level? Never mind. We're not getting a happy hook. You have to be level 8. You have to be level 8. So, level 6. We can use these. So these are 2-star hooks. Better than 1.5-star hooks. All right. So let's go with this costs 5 silver. Let's go with a 12. Let's go with a 12. We do need a basic sinker. A 15 gram is fine. And we're going to use maggots. Very cheap early bait. We're going to get some of those. Okay. I think that's all we need to get this rod set up. Alright, so let's try something here. It's going to be a little experimentation time before we wrap up this first video. We're going to get to do 2 things. We're going to get to show you how to set up a feeder rig. And then we're also going to try out a spot over here. This is actually a spot that I saw Clubby use. Do we have enough to buy the map? If we do, I might just go ahead and do that. Very nice. Another roach. So now that it's the middle of the day, we're getting the roaches. Yeah, we've got enough to buy the map. Let's go ahead and do that. The map is what, 3 silver? So once you have the map from the administration building, you can hit M and actually see where you're fishing. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to try to be casting towards this 5-meter hole, which I really, typically I like to do that from the dock, so kind of straight out this way. But one of my in-game friends, Clubby, was doing it from over here. You can see you have a good angle on that hole from here, so I thought that was a really good idea. Alright, so this is the feeder rig. It's on basic bottom fishing rig. We're going to put our spark on. Now, let's look at this. One thing we could do, how big is our other line? Yep, we're going to change this out. So 3.9 is still under 4.5, so that way we're using appropriate line. So our line is only 0.1 kilo over our fishing spark. Hopefully the reel can handle that. But remember, in general, you want your line to be less than your reel to be less than your rod. We need to buy a bite indicator as soon as we can. And we'll put our new Siberia size 12 hook on there and maggots. Okay. This is our feeder rig. We're using a reel for the first time. Let's see what our point of view is. Field of view. Yeah, that's good. Alright, is this how we want to cast? I think so. We're going to do a nice 92% cast. We have no points in it, so it's going to go all over the place. And then we're going to set it a little bit diagonal to where we threw it. Turn it once to close the reel, or you can close it once you put it down by hitting Y to reel in a little bit. We are going to reel it in to tighten it up though. And this is now our first feeder rig. We are fishing on the bottom. We are hopefully at least towards that 5-meter hole. And with maggots or worms or pearl barley, what we're really doing is targeting bream out here. So let's go ahead and let's actually put the feeder rod as number 1. No, let's don't do that. For now, since we only have one feeder, we'll put it as number 3. So what we're going to do is we're going to fish with bread and worms right around this log here. I think we'll get some bites here. But what we're also going to do is we're going to go purchase a bite indicator if we can. We may have to sell a couple fish, but we'll see. I think the cheapest bells are only around 3 silver. Alright, let's do... There we go. That should be enough. We sold 2 fish. So if you go into the store under accessories, you get the bite indicator, and we're going to use the bells here. 2.9 silver. Those are the cheapest bite indicators. I actually do like the upgraded bite indicators better, but at this level we can't afford to save up for those, so we'll just do the cheap ones. The only downside of these bells, I mean, it works fine except for they tend to glitch out a little bit more likely, more often than the others do, in my opinion. So that's why I kind of like the other ones. And you can definitely feeder fish without a indicator on there. We'll just have to kind of watch it and check it sometimes. But this is a good place to stand, especially without a bite indicator, because no bell is going to go off when we get a fish on our feeder, so we need to sort of be watching the line for when it twitches. Hopefully we'll be able to catch something from this spot. We can also see our float rods okay from here. Its mouth. And you could argue I pulled a little too quick there. There we go. Is it already Chinese sleeper time again? I guess it's getting close. So the way I keep checking this feeder rod is I'm picking it up and hitting R. If you have a fish on when you hit R, you'll get a red sort of notification that your reel speed is generalized based on having a fish on. So it's a way that if you're holding a rod, it's a way you can check to see if you actually do have a fish. Hopefully we can catch something on this feeder rod though before we wrap up this first episode. We at least have 3 rigs in the water. We can start working towards a second feeder line. Oh, there it goes. Wow, that was obvious. Okay. Alright, so now we're going to increase our friction brake a little bit. See if we can stop it from running. Alright, we don't want it going into the red though, not with inexpensive gear like this. So you can see we're going to have to wear this fish out a little bit. We want to be very careful. Try not to pull against it. Keep your rod up high. Don't point it down at the fish. We'll go up to 24 again. Nope, that's putting us in the red. If this was really nice gear, then I would pull it in the red a little bit, but he is pulling line out. So again, we're going to be dependent here on the fish eventually getting a little worn out. If we have to move around the lake, we will, but we don't want to do that this early in the fight. Let's see if we can stop it. We really can't anyway, so there we go. So we're already seeing a drop off in its strength, although it may start pulling again. Can't wait to see what fish this is. I really hope it's a bream, but we shall see. So one thing that's really nice if you go feeder rod direction and using things like maggots, like I said, pearl barley, even just regular worms or red worms, one thing that's really nice is that you can target bream and they will bite pretty much all night. And that is not a bream. That looks like that might be another tench. Yeah, very nice. And so you can catch those. All right, let's go ahead and add the, so right here it says bite indicator. That's where we're putting our bells. That's where we're putting our bells. All right, let's try to cast. Hold down shift, it'll go to 122% when you cast. Let's just go full cast there. It's gonna be a personal record for longest cast, obviously. Now we were fighting that fish for a long time. Do we still have fish on either of these? Yes, we do. How about you? All right, so we should go ahead and switch this to worms. And let's make sure this is tightened up. So now we'll hear that nice bell sound when we have a fish on. Oh, there is a fish on that. I couldn't tell. It's another sleeper. Another sleeper. Alright, so we are in a good spot here. Again, just getting past that early place where you just don't have any silver and not a lot of stuff to do, and then also making a good decision on what you're going to do with your first sort of 50 silver plus whatever you earn early is so important to having a good start in this game. And once you get going, you'll have the freedom to make lots of different decisions. And so just yesterday, the new body of water that is coming for this game was announced, and Gene from over at RF4 Game did an intro, about an hour and a half, an intro video of him fishing there. It looks like it's going to be a low to mid-level lake, so maybe around level 12 or so, and it's going to be more geared towards spin fishing, which is great, because one of the complaints that people have had is that if they want to specialize in spin fishing, it's harder. It's hard early game. Once you get to level 16 and go to quarry, it's awesome, but before that, winding rivulet was kind of your only option. There's a white bream. So that's our first bream species that we've caught. Let's do that 122% cast again. And that is what we want, are those bream species. Because if you get markers, they're going to be some really good early silver and XP. And you see we're already level 5. Even though it has felt like it's been a struggle, we are already level 5. So let's talk about putting some skill points in. We've got 4 skill points. Okay, so if we put points in fishing with a feeder rod, it's going to give us casting distance and accuracy as well as control of fish. Simple bottom rig is going to give us a better chance of a trophy. We don't really want a trophy right now, at least not some species. The other thing we could do is using a spinning reel. This only gives you casting distance and accuracy. Also, what I've heard, though I can't prove this, is that it also helps you do less damage to your reels, so you have to repair them less often. So if that's true, that is maybe worth valuing that higher than I maybe have in the past. But I still think that the first place to put points, in my opinion, is fishing with a feeder rod if you're going to be doing feeder fishing primarily. So I think that's what we'll do. By the way, that last fish we caught, I don't know if you noticed, but the bells never went off because the fish swam straight towards the shore. And the only way I knew that we had a fish on was because I saw how the line had suddenly gotten slack in it, right? So right now we've got it tightened up. There's no slack in it. Well, if the line all of a sudden starts folding in on itself, that means the fish is swimming towards us. So it's another sign that we have a fish on. Typically what will happen is the fish will freak out and try to swim away, and that'll set the bells off. But so what I recommend, if you're going to do a lot of bottom fishing like I like to do, I think points in feeding with a feeder rod is really great. And so I'm going to do 3 of them here, and I'm going to do 1 of them in using a spinning reel. I'm trying to value this one a little more because it does work across all. If you put points in using a spinning reel, that also counts towards spin fishing, and it also counts towards float fishing when you unlock the bolo rods, the Bolognese rods. So it does, and it's good towards a lot of different things. So I mean it's nice, but it doesn't give you better control of the fish. And that's the whole reason why I have traditionally maxed this out first, because it's giving me control of the fish, so I'm going to get more fish in. All right. That might be trouble. No, we're okay. I just saw the way that pole was bending. That's a nice Chinese sleeper. 262 grams is a decent sleeper there. And you saw those maggots we purchased for what, 2.5 silver or something like that. We will make back our money and then some on those maggots for sure. All right, so let's talk about, I mentioned getting the shovel so that you can start leveling up your bait crafting. That's going to be this, harvesting baits. Here's the thing. The earlier you start on this, the better you are. What you want to get to, and this is a long way away, but what you want to get to is 50% so that you can make fish pieces so that when you hit level 16, you can make tons of silver catching burbot at quarry. Okay, so just file that away. A lot of the baits that you'll craft and the worms that you'll gather obviously will be very valuable, so it's worth it anyway. But the big thing is making through that progression so that you have options to get fish pieces. Because you technically can sort of buy your way through getting the different baits you need from the store, as long as the ones you want are in stock. But a lot of the crafted baits are some of the best baits in the game, so I definitely recommend doing that. Let's just double check this rod. You never know when you don't have a small fish on there that's just not setting it off, but looks like we don't. I was going to try to catch just like 1 or 2 more fish, and then we are going to wrap this first episode up. I hope this has been helpful. If it is helpful, if you like this longer format, please let me know. I tend to want to do short 10-minute or less YouTube videos, but I've seen a lot of new players recently ever since Steam launch, and there's just been a lot of questions about early game, and so I thought, you know what, let's go back and do this type of series again. But if it's not that helpful, or if it's just too long, then there's other ways I can go about approaching it. But I enjoy doing this. I think it's always fun to come back and level up an account. I've done this way too many times, unfortunately. Or fortunately, I guess. I enjoy it. So it's a free-to-play game. You can do this as much as you want. At this point, I have 2 main accounts that I play pretty much every day when I can. But it's always fun to go back and have a little alt account and just go through the process again and see what's changed and see how things are performing. I would love to get this account all the way to Old Berg so that we can go have fun fishing at Winding, trying to target other fish. Then we could go to Old Berg and try to show you how to catch tench, even in that you can't use cheese yet. Just lots of fun stuff. It is just perfect time to catch a bream here. And I just, you know, this inexpensive line, you know, as someone that does have a high level player, there's a lot of things I would like to do with this, but it just costs too much silver. This is just, as a low level player, this is what you're stuck with. I would love to throw a fluorocarbon leader on there. These bream are fairly cautious fish. We'd probably get a lot higher higher bite frequency. But if you look at bottom fishing, we can't use a leader until we get to 45%. Right now we're at 0.4%. That's a long way off, isn't it? Well, we may not be able to catch this last fish. We'll give it another minute here. So I don't love this spot in terms of the bite frequency. I mean, this is the time of day where we should be catching fish off of floats. So, you know, one thing we could do is try right down here next time. This spot may just be better once you have multiple feeders and don't have to worry about trying to get float fishing going. Well, that's up in the water. You don't have to be right on top of your feeder, though, now that you have bells, because, oh, look at that. We got a fish without even realizing it. That's crazy. So maybe this is a nice little spot. We'll see if it's deep enough right there. Yeah, that's pretty good. That might be a good way to have that set up. And then we can just come check on the feeder line every once in a while. Now the other thing you can do, and I don't know that I necessarily would recommend doing it on the bamboo rod, but we'll try it here. The other thing you can do is put maggots out here. Maggots are cheap. I showed you how good they are on the feeder rig. Well, they're also really good on the float fishing as well. Another thing that I like having is binoculars, especially if you're fishing away from your line, because you could get a much closer look. But again, that's just silver you don't have early in the game to spend. Alright, sorry, I had the mic muted there for a second. Let's go see what we caught here. Here's the next feeder fish. This is actually super fun, catching these fish on a complete starter piece of gear. Every fish that we catch is a little scary. You just never know. You know, if that had been a 2-kilo tench, I'm not sure how long it would have taken to get in that first fish we caught. Look at that, a common roach, but it's a marker common roach. Alright, so let's go. This is a good time to wrap up this first video. Let's go. Alright, we are getting a bite here. Let's see if we can actually successfully pull this fish in. This is on worms. Come on, buddy. Let's go out with a win here. Come on. Oh, both lines. Kind of doing the same thing. Well, we pulled that one out. Well, we are going out with a win. A crucian win. All right. So we'll get all of our gear and put it up. We have 1.83 silver, but let's see how we do when we sell fish. We're not going to get anywhere close to what we need in terms of getting our second feeder line. We're going to have to probably take another day or so of fishing to get there. But once you get to your second feeder, then you're going to start getting your system going and be on the path to making a lot more silver. So we're 1 crucian short. For 6 silver, I would recommend, if this is you, going ahead and getting that last crucian. We're 2 sleepers short, but those are small sleeper sizes, so we didn't have any perch. You will occasionally get perch on worms, so short on rough. This would have been really nice. 18 silver for 1 bream, and we're in the right spot. We'll start trying different baits out. We'll get those bream eventually. A 3 kilo bream, though, are we going to pull that in on our starter gear? I don't know. It wouldn't be easy, that's for sure. So you select all the fish, 11 silver. You can sort by price to see like what's making the most silver. Of course, tench are, and this tench is 3.6 silver by itself. And you see where it drops off. Once you don't have check marks for being valued fish, these are worth fraction of a silver. But everything counts. Early, I would sell everything. Later, yeah, you might not sell everything, but early you want to sell everything. So that puts us at 13 silver. Not bad. Thank you for watching. Again, let me know. I'm just trying to kind of cover stuff as it comes up in a much more long form, relaxed fashion. I don't know how many episodes we'll do, but I certainly enjoy this. It's just a fun game. Even early when you're trying to figure things out, wrap your head around stuff. It's just a really fun game. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and please leave feedback at the bottom of the video if you do have any. And good luck fishing. Thanks so much.